Hey, we got a really special episode today. I really enjoyed this interview because the rep found the thing that would help him accelerate his growth as a salesperson and grow very fast. And it's really the ability to elicit feedback, honest, sometimes harsh feedback, and take it and integrate it. And there's lots of reasons why we don't take it and integrate it. We tend to get defensive. We tend to think that the other person's wrong, but the other person's trying to help us. And our little mammal brain says, that's an attack. I don't like that. So we're going to talk through this. And for those reps who can do this, who can take feedback, can elicit it, can adapt and grow with it. And I'll give you what I've seen the most common ones among salespeople, including myself. And if you can take one at a time and start developing it. And remember, it's not a destination. It is a journey. So we're going to get into it in great detail, follow his journey. His journey is very similar to a lot of people that I talk to, a lot of people who are in the course. So I think if you're selling into a highly complex, highly competitive space where people view you as a commodity, sound familiar? Then you're really going to enjoy this episode. Before we get into it, make sure you're checking out our friends over at CoVideo. Video emails the way to go now. They just added captions. Got to give it a shot. Whether you use it as your first video, maybe, or definitely additional videos as a way of re-engaging and staying in touch with people. So go to covideo.com, give it a shot, as well as my partners over at Pipedrive. Pipedrive is my personal CRM. I love using it. It's easy to use, a lot of fun, and I think you'll enjoy it. Use the Brutal Truth coupon code. Let's get into the interview. I'll sum it up at the end, and I'll give you probably the top 3 to 5 things that I see in reps and people in general, and how you can very quickly start to become better at it. I'll also update everybody on the courses. Hey, Clay, welcome to the show. As a way of getting started, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I've watched your videos on LinkedIn for a long time and listened to your podcast. I was definitely think 2 of the funniest things you've ever done are the stop following up video on LinkedIn and the forecasting for managers. I can't imagine that any sales rep or any manager can't listen to that and be like, yeah, I kind of done that a few times. So I love that. Like I said, I listened to your podcast and I was telling you a little bit ago, I'm not sure that I meet the high standards that your guests bring. They put a very high bar. So hopefully some of my, dumb sales guy wisdom might be able to help and I don't embarrass myself too bad. But I've got a pretty interesting, weird background. I started I actually studied philosophy and religious studies in college. So it's kind of a different background. I don't hear that too often in
sales. Was the perfect match, the perfect evolution.
It makes me look at problems differently, and think a little bit differently. I think than a lot of other people. I kind of fell completely backwards out of college. I won't even go to that long story, and started selling farm and ranch real estate. Was pretty lucky and had some great mentors that I worked with. I sold a ranch to a guy that was a COO. He's still a great friend of mine, a mentor. We became friends, spent a lot of time together, and just kept hounding me about coming to work for him in the banking and mortgage world. Did that for a while, worked really hard on my craft and learned a ton from him. 2008, mortgages, banking, 2008.
Perfect timing.
Yes. Not, it wasn't necessarily the best move, but spent a little bit of time there. He took off and moved up to Dallas, but I was lucky to find a home at ADP. Worked my butt off, had some great mentors there. Had to learn payroll. I mean, it's a complicated industry, and I guess they call it human capital management now. But I did pretty well, and I learned a ton. Happened to get recruited by kind of an up-and-coming company back then named Paylocity, and it just seemed like a great opportunity. So I kind of took a risk, went there, and just was really lucky that I had, 5 or 6 incredible mentors from the top of the company to down, just people that really were accepting of giving me time and pouring into me and putting up with all the questions I ask. And then 6.5 years ago, I was approached by Kevin Clayton. He's the owner of ProLiant. He's one of the most incredible men I've ever met. I mean, he has this incredible drive. He's got a great story. He's an ethical, moral man. And he's building this incredible company, and he has this really unique management style that is certainly not for everyone, but it allows for the right people to really thrive. And, the story and the ability to have some authorship in his story and the growth of his company, it drew me in. And, I came here, we had 7 sales rep, grew it to 50 or so. And, through that time growing, I was recruiting people, of course, as a sales manager. And Kevin came to me last January and said, hey, I need you to start spending a little bit more time on this. And I said, okay, and so I was doing sales and kind of helping with recruiting. And he sat me down in August. He said, one of the most important things in a company's growth is finding the right people. You have a knack for it. We need great people constantly. We need to focus on that. Every company does for its client's sake. So he asked me in August to stop, selling technology and start, I kind of joke, selling people on this company. Yep. And, half the time I don't know what I'm doing. It's not my classically trained thing to recruit people, but, I just try to outwork everybody and learn. And that's kind of why I'm here today. Just, get outside of my comfort zone and talk to you, learn from you, and tell my story.
Cool. We got a lot of listeners that are in that ADP, payroll, human HR
capital
space.
Management. Yeah.
That's a brutal space, isn't it?
There's so much money in this space, venture capital, private equity, giant companies have gone public. There's a grow at all cost mentality, which sometimes for sales reps is really great. Sometimes, that's a good place to be as a sales rep. Sometimes it's a bad place to be as a sales rep. But yeah, there's a new company popping up every single day. There's tons of competition. A politician, whether it's a local politician, a state politician, or someone in Washington opens their mouth, and your job changes. And
right.
You got to learn something.
New requirements,
every day.
New standards.
It's incredible.
Now, a lot of people tell me that space because somebody's already solving the problem somehow, some way, doing it themselves, using a competitor. Yeah. How did you get their attention? How did you keep the deal moving?
I think for me, certainly when I started, to your point about, especially now, there's so many people. I mean, these people are getting phone call after phone call and email and marketing. I mean, it's hard. There's a lot of noise. I think our CMO, Robbie, he kind of gave me the words that I never really knew. I just try to be human. I try to have human to human sales, not B2B, B2C, A, B, C. I think you even had a post about that not too long ago, but you gotta be human and just have human conversations. And, it doesn't work for everybody. I just outworked people. I made more phone calls, made more calls. And if I got somebody on the phone, I just tried to be genuine. Hey, are you changing? Are you not? What can I do for you? If not, all right, when can I follow up? And then just be honest and try not to be a pain, respect people's time. Yeah. And I think was lucky in that I outworked enough people to get into enough deals that people appreciated my honesty and sincerity. And, then you can have honest conversations and start breaking down, where the missteps are from the previous provider or whatever their current technology isn't able to do that maybe yours can do. And you just continue the conversation and try not to be a pain. And if you can solve problems, genuinely people will make a move if you can prove it.
Didn't you find, though, that outworking people isn't a scalable strategy?
No, you're right. So it's funny because one of my bosses at Paylocity, I was making 400, 500, 600 phone calls a week sometimes. And, they're like, what are you doing? And I had to change, and they helped me with a lot of change about, being smart, finding partners instead of just trying to do it all yourself, and doing different strategies like that where you don't burn yourself out, because in sales, it's easy to burn out. It's really easy to burn out
at that rate, and it's not, we're just human. We're not mechanical. We're not electronics. You get sick. You get depressed.
Yeah, you lose a bunch of deals. You lose, I'm sure I'm going to win this $100,000 deal, and you lose it to somebody who undercuts you by 20%. And it's like, sorry, the technology's so close these days that, it's, if someone just is willing to buy the business, sometimes you take it, you take it in the teeth, and how do you pick yourself back up and make those phone calls? It's hard.
And I liked what you said about human to human. I've kind of redefined it as mammal to mammal because, people to people, it's almost people naturally flow into their title, your title. I'm a sales rep. Let me tell you about my value proposition. Let me give you some insights. Let me find your pain.
Yeah.
Right. And the other person is, I'm not interested. Right.
Yeah. Like, so you're just like everybody else who walked in here saying you were going to do that. Yeah.
And what I found last year was one of the key differentiators of great sales reps is they were able to have a conversation about what the client cared about that wasn't based about what you do.
It's hard to do that,
It isn't, right?
I know that it's a constant struggle of everybody, but certainly of myself, to not just, you hear somebody say, oh, well, my onboarding process, I'm not sure about it. And you just want to throw up. Oh, well, we can fix it by doing this and this. And they're like, well, no, I wasn't saying necessarily it was broken. I only hire 2 people a year. And you're like, oh, well, now you're just like everybody else and you lost it.
Right. And we just go into our biography.
Yeah.
And our company's background. And we don't understand that that's the last thing anyone wants to hear.
Yeah. People want to hear about them, not you. I mean, and it's the hardest thing as a sales rep to not just show up and throw up,
Right. And like, how do you, what do they care about? What are they up against? How do they get rewarded? What are they going through as human beings?
Yeah, not only that, but then the gamut of just all of the different, preparing for one company on one end of that spectrum and another, and how to communicate to these people who are in completely different companies and completely different cultures. You go in there thinking, oh, I'm going to sell this, my amazing technology, and they're, pushing paper around and they like it. And you
That's
lost
what they
it.
do. Yeah. And to do that, to be able to unseat a competitor, you have to have that rapport. Or find somebody in active pain.
Or be the absolute cheapest bottom dollar, be willing to buy it, and that's just not, unfortunately, it happens a lot in this industry because of all the venture capital and private equity money and different things out there. But, it's that, I don't see how that's long-term scalable.
And that's typically not a winning argument because unless you're talking to the owner.
Right.
Because in large B2B, it's not their money. And there's a lot more risk in switching than there is in trying to save a few dollars.
It's funny you say that because I almost inevitably, it seems like that is the biggest detractor for most sales and my career is, I just don't want to do that again. You go through that implementation again.
Right.
Is it really truly going to solve that many problems? And that's the question you got to get over. And that you have to have rapport because they're sticking their neck out on the line, especially when they choose, if they're choosing ADP, I remember at ADP, I used to tell people all the time, like, oh, you're never going to get fired for hiring ADP, right? Say that to the, the controller, the payroll person. But you choose a smaller company like ProLiant. Whoa, well, what if it screws up? You're going to, and CEOs coming down and looking at you. So you got to overcome a lot and there's got to be a lot of trust there.
And if you put it into your world or even my world, it's like Verizon's trying to get me to switch internet services from Comcast. They have faster service. It's cheaper. It's more reliable. But my whole business is based on the internet. So 2 or 3 days without internet eliminates all those benefits.
Yeah. That's a great point. Great point.
And they keep sending me offers and cutting the price. But what I really need is a technician to say, okay, give me 3 hours. If it doesn't work, we'll switch it back.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Right. And it's that type of rapport and solving the real problem that people don't get as sales reps.
And nobody's, to your point, who has asked you that question? Nobody.
No one.
Well, and I think a lot of times because marketing and sales gets together and I know this is the problem. These are the top 10 problems and, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But in your instance, nobody's asked you that. And therefore,
and I would think a lot of people switching it. Well, you got to be home. And if it doesn't work, You can't watch TV that night. You can't surf the internet. When's it going to be working? And it all seems nice and easy until you try and do it.
Right. So true. So true. It's a lot. It's very similar almost in, taking it a little bit back to sales. It's very similar almost that to asking a sales rep to adopt some new strategy. I know I've watched a lot of your videos and talked to us like, if they don't understand the why and how it's going to benefit them and, and they're willing to do the work, if they don't see it quickly, it's hard.
Yeah. Now, what were some of your milestones from a sales skill development? Coming from certainly not a natural selling background. You didn't get philosophy because you wanted to go into sales. You went into sales because the philosophy thing didn't have many openings.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
The philosophy store wasn't hiring.
No, they weren't. Yeah. And that is very true. My parents still to this day are like, okay, all right. For me, and I'm not sure if this answers your question or not, but I tell people all the time, I think the biggest difference in my career has always just been, I've always tried to seek out mentors and in every level that I'm at and find somebody who is willing to give me honest feedback, because we all know most people suck at giving honest feedback. They say, hey, you're doing a really great job, but but you're doing a really great job, right? They kind of sandwich the feedback in the middle, and most people only hear, I'm doing a really great job. So I've just really, really tried hard at every stage, at every company I'm at to find people that would be willing to give me honest feedback, and then be willing to listen to what they're saying, and then critique myself and get better, and put the work in to get better. For me, it's just the mentors has been a huge thing, and then what's been incredible to me as I've kind of gone through my career and started being one of those people that somebody wants to talk to, is making myself go and give back and be a mentor. Because what I think has been really incredible for me is learning that when you're learning something, you're learning it one way. When you're teaching someone, you have to learn it in a whole completely different way. Right. And it's really amazing. It does nothing but help me to go mentor, or maybe not mentor, but help other people, be there for other people, talk about, my failures and trying to help them get around those. So I'm not sure if that answers the question you were looking for, but without a doubt, that's my trick. That
has been a consistent theme. The challenge is accepting the feedback. If somebody is brave enough to tell you the real issue, which usually is you're not listening, you're talking too much, slow it down, make more eye contact, get a clean shirt.
All of these things, it's like, I remember each one of those. I'm like, yep, I heard that one. You didn't say shave. I get that from EC Junior, my dad. Every time he looks at me, he's like, come on, man, you look like a bum. So shave, play the role, work hard. It's hard to hear it, but if you take a step back and you're willing to, they're telling you that because they care about you and they want to see your success. Then you just got to make the change.
And that's it. Being able to hear it without hating the person who told you, because, our primal brain takes it as an attack, even though it's intended 100% to help us. You asked for it.
Yeah. But there's so many times I can look back and somebody was trying to give me that kind of guidance or mentorship. And, like I said, people are not very good at doing that. People suck at doing that. And,
how do I look in this dress?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's,
you want the truth.
When I hear that one, I just, hold on, I got a phone call. But it's actually, my wife is beautiful, by the way. She always gets it.
She's listening.
Yeah. Getting it and giving it, giving that feedback is hard, and trying to find a way to do it where people are willing to accept it. Doing it in a way like they understand that you care about them, but hearing it, I can't tell you how many times I've heard feedback and instantly for 2 weeks, I'm like, that person, they're a jerk, or, they don't,
Right.
it's just so easy to spiral. So in sales, I call it spiraling.
Push
just
back.
spiral.
Yeah.
And you start blaming yourself, start blaming them, you start, and it just spirals out of control. And all of a sudden, you 2 weeks gone, like we talked about at the very beginning, shoot, I made 25 phone calls this week and you didn't even realize you just lost it. So, yeah.
And that is the express lane to success. Getting feedback, especially when you're young.
I was that's it. I mean, for me, I can absolutely look back on, just growing up and having a lot of good people growing up and coaches, but certainly when it came into business, Mitch, who was my boss when I was selling ranches, I mean, he spent time with me every day. Say this, don't say that, go here, read this book, learn about that. And then, Robert Wirtz, when I went to the banking, Hampton Crump and Brad Garner at Paylocity, incredible people, and Kevin and Ken and Adam and Debbie, these people at this company. You find a company and you find people who are willing to, tell you, hey, give you a slap and say, get back over here, get focused on this, don't do that. And if you focus on those things that they're telling you and change that, like I said, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I can say that's my trick.
And that's, because I've also seen a theme with both performance activities in high school and college. Things like sports, performance, always had a coach there.
Yeah.
Taking feedback. The arts, singing, dancing, acting, comedy, had to take feedback from the audience.
Yeah.
Right. Military, plenty of feedback.
Right. Yeah, I was listening to one of your guys several weeks ago that he was coming. He was back on for the second time, and he was a Navy guy. That was a great podcast, the second one. And I can only imagine. I'm a big Jocko fan too, so when he was saying that, I was all on board.
And that's it, because when we're young, we kind of think, we're just going with the flow, and I saw that with a lot of reps, and they'd ask me for feedback, and it's like, well, you kind of don't show up on time. You sneak in, you might be only a minute late, but, and do I care that much? Not a whole lot. But if I was a customer, I'd care a lot. It tells me that your time's more valuable than mine.
Yeah, I think one of the feedback I give people a lot, or I kind of look back and you just reminded me to think of it as like, if you truly care about your job and your career and your skill set, and you are working your butt off, there's nobody at this company that will actually pour more into you than me. But as soon as I start caring about your job way more than you, I don't got time for that. I'm going to go work on somebody else, because I don't want to care more than you. But as soon as we start that race, I'm going to start building you. You're going to start building me, and we're going to get after it. So I'm 100% on board with that.
And that's it. And I had a rep, and he asked for feedback, and I go, you talk over me. I mean, every time I start to talk, you pounce.
No, I mean, I don't do that.
And he goes, I got to go. And he didn't talk to me for a week. I really hurt his feelings.
Yeah.
But after a week, he goes, I talked to my wife and stuff, and she says, I do that. And I go, I didn't say it to hurt your feelings.
Right.
I said it to help you.
Right.
And I saved you years of people rolling their eyes and pushing you out of their office, and you not knowing why.
And then you get stuck in the video, if you said the follow-up, you thought it went great, and because they are like, oh great, yeah, everything's great, yeah, we'll talk to you later. And then, hey, did a terrorist get you? I think that's what she said.
Well, that's it, because you don't know why they're not talking to you. Because I make a big point. Clients either they want to talk to you, or they have to talk to you, or you force them to talk to you.
That's great.
And a lot of people are in the have to and the forced to, not the want to.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be about baseball or the Super Bowl. It can be, but it has to be that human to human connection, that you care about them, you have their best interest in mind. And that is a talent, and it's hard because management is pushing and pushing and pushing.
It's hard. I think maybe one of the other ones is, I tell people, I feel like I have to tell people a lot, is you are never going to be really, really successful in your work life until you've got your personal life in order. If you've got a bunch of drama over there, spend time focusing on that. I've been, not to just say this because I was joking earlier about my wife, but I've got an incredible wife who, she is the CEO of our household. When I'm at work, I don't think about finances. I don't think about are our kids being taken care of. I don't think about, what's going to be, do I got to clean this? And that's not, I don't say that as anything. Is she runs an incredible part. I'm able to be successful because I'm 100% when I'm here. I'm not 30% on this drama over here, 30% on this drama over here, and 40% on work. I'm 100% when I'm here. And I've noticed a lot of people, that's hard. That's really hard.
Well, yeah, especially today when a lot of people work from home.
Yeah.
And I've had people, headhunters call me, oh, this person lives in this location. It's a resort location. I go, not interested. I go, why? Or he says, why? And I go, well, clearly they're living there because they want a lifestyle. This is not a lifestyle job.
No. Yes.
And if I need them there on Monday, that means they have to fly out on Sunday. And I bet they're not going to be happy about that.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think you make a great point because it is a job. It's not a part-time job.
Nope.
No.
And that is so true.
Right. And people will have all this sympathy for this thing and that thing. And it's like, okay, but if you're crushing your number, you can pretty much work the job in. But until you are, you got to do the job.
That's right. That's right.
Now, what was it like moving from like the payroll thing, which I think was pretty hard. And I'm sure recruiting's pretty hard too, because it's like you're in the middle between the hiring and the candidate.
It's another, industry that's just everybody's in payroll or everybody's a recruiter, seems like. But I'm still with the same company, so it's nice that I'm able to do it in a corporate setting rather than trying to be on my own. I wasn't prepared, I think, as much for. There's a very emotional side, obviously, of changing a job and convincing somebody to change a job and take that risk. And especially, if you're looking for top tier people, it takes a lot, and I've gone through it a couple times. It's genuinely a professional divorce. When I left Paylocity, I still to this day remember second guessing decisions for months and months and months and missing my friends and missing my colleagues and all these different things. And so, dealing with people's emotions has been a really interesting one. Trying to be different, it's a lot the same, but it's a lot different in sales, but, trying to I try to think, what would I want somebody to say? And I read all these recruiting messages that people have sent me over the last 10 years. And I'm like, God, 98% of them are the exact same. And so trying to come up with something that's honest and then, convincing people to give me time. I mean, it's hard, time is money and it's trying to convince people that there, I guess that maybe the best way to put it is the best salespeople. One of the reasons they're the best at selling what they're selling is they believe they're at the company that has the best thing out there. You're not going. How can you be great if you don't think that your company is great? Right. So you have to overcome this inherent thing to say, well, I know your thing is great, but maybe this thing over here is greater. And it's just like sales, but now there's this whole emotional side of it, and wives and kids, and and all of that stuff come into play. And man, it's complicated to manage all of that virtually.
See, I mean, during my career, I think one of the few things I did really smart was befriend 2 or 3 great recruiters.
Wow. And
because most people only take your call when they're in market. They're unhappy, they're looking, and that's really not when you want to meet them. You want to meet them when they have a lot of success, they know what they're doing. And what I did was I befriended them. If I wasn't in market, I go, who are you looking for? What type of person are you looking for? Okay, here's 3 people. And all of a sudden they were like, whoa. And I go, what are you hearing in the market? Who's doing really well? What companies are hot? Right. And all my friends would be like, they wouldn't talk to headhunters. They always looked at them the wrong way. Right. But when I was in market, I called these guys up and they would sell me as opposed to create the beauty contest for their client. And I would ignore the ones that would, okay, I'm going to put 10 people in front of the hiring manager.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be one of the 10.
No, you're like, I mean, you hit two things. Absolutely. So one, turning a passive candidate into an active candidate, that's the people generally we want, right? We want, like you said, we want the 3 times President's Club person, and convincing that person to become an active candidate is hard. And then on top of that, as soon as they become an active candidate, guess how many other companies they're talking to, right? So that's a hard part of it. But then the other part of what you were saying, as far as, there are a lot of, I think, really, just like in any sales position, there's a lot of crappy headhunters out there that's, they give us a bad name. I mean, I got a message. It's funny. I got a message the other day from a headhunter that basically, if you read between the lines, you could go on LinkedIn, type in these, talent, the kind of the parameters of this person. And he was like, I'm moving this person from this company, named it without putting the person's name, found the guy's name in 5 minutes. It's like, you just outed that person to anybody you sent this message to. That's so rude. Why would you, it's like, that gives us a bad name. So yeah, I think you're right. Finding the right relationships. And I think I've been, I've got a lot of, it's been funny just from 10 years in this payroll industry. I'm connected with a lot of people. I've messaged a lot of people for a lot of times. And even today, today's my birthday, and a lot of people who I've been messaging for years and years and years who, sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't. I've been really, it's been really cool to see just the outpouring of messages on LinkedIn today from people that I've been recruiting. It's like, hey, I always appreciate your positivity and the messages that you send and your tenacity, and you're not a pain in the ass, but you still do it the right, So, it's hard to walk that line of, pleasantly persistent and, pain in the butt.
And I think a lot of salespeople don't understand the value of having a consistent relationship with a recruiter, because the interview, you get an hour, right, and most of it's about the handshake and the emotional reaction. Yep. Would I like to have a beer with this person? Which is, who cares? It's like, is the person going to be able to sell? Right. And the recruiter can do that. They can explain why this person is the right match.
That's right.
Outside of that hour, they can be the social proof. They could be the trusted advisor, the coach.
Yeah. It's hard. That's another part of what's hard about this is, to not to be biased too much for the candidate, and not, you want to coach them and you want the right people. But at the same time, in my position, I still work for ProLiant, right? So my loyalties will always be with ProLiant versus the candidate. But those great candidates, you're right. They're the ones that you want to say, okay, here's what you need to know about this person. Yep. Make sure you're communicating, your background that we've talked about. Make sure you're communicating more about this, less about this, and it makes a big difference. And there's tons of people. It's funny. There's, going back to trying to mentor people, there's often that when I do interviews, if it's a no for me, and people ask me at the end, which I always think is kind of cheesy, like, hey, is there any reason why you're not going to move forward with me? Most people are not going to answer that question. They're like, yeah, I'll get back with the hiring manager, right? That's the common answer from recruiters, right? But I'll tell people honestly, if it's a no, I'm just like, well, here's the no. Here's the reasons to know. Here's my feedback on maybe what you need to do to get to that next level. Yeah. And I have people following up from me. We've hired people here that 4 years ago, I said, look, you're not ready yet. You need to go get 1 or 2 years in industry experience. You do that. You have a home here. Go crush it for, 12 to 16 months. Email me and let's get after it, and I'll pay you more money. And, we've hired a couple people that have done that. And so, yeah, if they'll be honest, those people are worth keeping in touch with.
And that was critical in my interviewing skills, because I was selling to software developers and CIOs. Now, if you act like a salesperson in front of those people, you get nowhere. Mm-mm. They want to talk slow and technical, and they don't want to be pushed or hyped. So I would go into the interview with that same personality. And the recruiter says, Brian, you got to amp it up. Go get a venti coffee. I go, really? That's what you heard? They said? Yeah, you got to be more salesy. And I was like, okay. And once I did, I'd get all the offers. And it was that feedback. It was contextual.
Yeah.
I didn't apply it to what I was selling, but I did apply it during that interview process, which is a very different sale than probably what most people are selling.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't used to it because they're used to a certain type of sales call, and the recruiter can coach you on that. This is what the manager wants to hear. They want to hear numbers, or they want to hear deal size, or they want to hear a 90-day plan, or this is what they don't want to hear.
Right.
Your office dog policy, your comfort ferret, your
yeah, we've had a few of those. Yeah,
your kombucha flavor.
Yeah. Do you have a ping pong table?
Your half birthday.
Yeah. Oh, that was another good one. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I appreciate your time today. What type of salespeople? Is it salespeople you recruit, or is it others?
I recruit everything, but yeah, I mean, sales. So I've been, like I said, I've been lucky to kind of take over the gamut. Right now, we've got a lot of open positions. I mean, the fact that we're pretty blessed. We've had 8 straight Inc. 5000 awards, but I've listened to some of your podcasts. What's neat about this is we don't have venture capital, any private equity, 100% privately held, but we're still one of those really unique companies that's growing really fast, but at a smart rate. So we grow at 35, 40% a year for many, 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 many years in a row. So we're on this constant growth. I've got open sales positions in I think 8 cities. And it's what's unique about this company is, and I kind of mentioned Kevin has a unique management style, as I call it, or we call it, structured independence. And it's not for it's
independent.
It's not for everybody. And I don't like, oh, we're better. It's just, I've never interviewed somebody that says, oh, I want to be micromanaged. Do you micromanage? Right?
Like, could you give me more KPIs?
Yeah. Right. Never had anybody say that, but I think most people do pretty well in an environment where you're getting guided quite a bit, do this, don't do that. And a lot of efficiency comes from there. We are not that way at all. We abide by structured independence, which is, hey, we hire, I kind of say the Steve Jobs mindset. You hire really good people. Don't tell them what to do, right? Here's your parameters. Here's your job. Here's the resources. Here's the people you need to talk to. Go be dynamic. Go take some chances, within the parameters, within the idea, and be great. And if you need help, ask for help, and then get after it. And it's incredible. I always tell people, the reason we're so efficient is that world is we find people who thrive in that environment, and it's not for everybody, and it can be hard and it can be difficult. But people who thrive in that environment, they do great. And I'm an example of that. Now all of a sudden I'm doing recruiting. One of my favorite stories is we had this girl who, she started at the front desk. And you know what? She dominated. She did great. Everyone loved her. 6 months later, they're like, oh, let's move her over here. Right? Great outcomes. Great. Did really well. Let's move her over here. 3 years down the road, she's running one of our departments, and that's what this company is about, is finding great people, giving them structured independence, keeping a flat, horizontal organization and getting after it. And we are really efficient. We have no debt whatsoever, and we're competing against the big guys. And, there's a lot of cool things that are happening at this company. And anyways, thank you for the opportunity to let me say that.
Cool. And where should people go to learn more about the company and connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, of course. I'm Emerson Larkin on there. I think my hash sign is Hefe Clay. And then, or Proliant.com is a great place, of course, as well.
I really like that, because his motivation to get on the podcast was more to just experiment, to get out of his comfort zone, to get his voice out there, start building his personal brand. And he had never done it before. So let's take a step back. What are the key things that most salespeople take forever to realize? I think number one clearly is listening, and not listening to respond, listening to hear, listening to understand, listening for what's really being said and meant and felt. I think that's probably number one. I see that probably most consistently. And it's a hard skill. These are all the outward mindset skills, the ability to empathize, be curious and interested in other people. I'd say probably number 2 is the need to pounce on somebody. As soon as somebody starts talking, they start talking. Instead of taking a 1, 2, 3, then respond. Give time for the other person to kind of finish their thoughts, to relax, which brings up probably number 3 is have a similar energy level as them. Maybe a little bit faster to kind of lead them, but sales reps tend to move too fast. And they don't really meet people where the client is right now. And I see this all over LinkedIn. It's all about selling them. Well, you first got to understand, where are they? Are they aware of the problem that you solve? Are they curious about it? Are they interested in solving it? Are they actively trying to solve it? Too many of us assume that we can get people from unaware to interest in a couple of minutes of a phone call or an email. Now, that's why it doesn't work, is that unless they're actively interested, and let's face it, we all are in market right now, or at least curious about probably 3 to 5 things. I talk to reps all the time. I go, maybe you just bought a new house. Guess what you're in market for? Landscaping, housekeeping, furniture, carpet. You got to populate the house. You got to paint it. You got to do all these things. You got to customize it for you. So you'd be responsive to those things. But if you've been in your house for 2 years and you're comfortable and you like it, those things aren't going to be of interest to you. So it doesn't matter how compelling somebody is. We have to understand where the other person is. Too many of us think we should be going for the no. You're there. You don't have to lift a finger for the no. You're already at no. Our job is build to yes. And if you could find somebody or a couple of people in your life, maybe you have an accountability partner or a sales rep or even a close friend whose opinion you trust, who you know that they're not going to say something to hurt you. And you can even self-assess, but self-assessing tends to protect us because our mammal brain wants us to think we're fine. And if you asked every sales rep in the world, no one was going to rate themselves a C-. Who would? Maybe when they first get into it, but once they have some success, they think at least a grade or 2 above where they really are, and we can all become better. This is not a destination. And I have this discussion with VPs of sales all the time. It's like their approach to sales development is all wrong. The 2-day seminar and training session, it's too much too fast. And that's, yeah, they may learn it, they may know it. It's like reading a book. You can read a cookbook. It doesn't make you a chef because you have to do it, get feedback, hone it, take feedback, not personally. And I think if you can disconnect that mammal brain and reassign the meaning of this, that this person is trying to help me. And, when I got into management, that was kind of the first thing I tried to do. And at first I did it too fast. And if you do it too fast, you're hurting the other person's feelings because they're not open to it. What you really want is people coming to you and saying, how do I take my game to the next level? And the thing is, they'll always say it's everything but them. It's, I need a better territory, a better engineer, a better product, a better comp plan. And those things all help. But the thing we have control over is the person in the mirror. And the person in the mirror, the last thing that mammal brain wants is to feel that it's not fine just the way it is. And this is why changing is so hard, because our mammal brain thinks in today. It doesn't think a year from now, 10 years from now, 30. It doesn't think that way. That's why no one saves for retirement. Nobody does anything until they have to. So as professionals, as performers in the sales profession, taking this feedback is critical. And that's why I call it a performance profession. And the word performance kind of conjures up singing and acting. Even those are performance professions, whether you look at sports, cooking, pretty much anything that of any complexity that we do, we have to perform at it. And people just look at it like it's just long distance running. Just run. Just row. Those things are kind of labor-oriented activities. Trust me, I'm a runner. It's labor. And the performance of it is a small part. Probably the 90% of it, it's the grind of doing it. And a lot of people say sales is just too much of the grind. The grind's part of it. And I think I just opened it up everybody in the interview about that, because when I hear I'm going to outwork other people, you can try that strategy. I tried it, and I got sick. The first year I was in sales, had all kinds of health problems. I wasn't sleeping. I was stressed out, and I was outworking everybody 7 days a week. No fun, no social life, very little exercise, terrible diet. And the problem is that we're human beings. We're not a piece of machinery, and we break down even when we're young and in our 20s. So the idea that you can outwork other people is very short-term thinking. You have to become better. And the fastest way to become better is to get feedback from others, because we have these blind spots and we don't really notice them until we are shown them. I took a communications course when I first got into sales. A company put us through it, and they videotaped us. And boy, is that humbling. When you think you're a great presenter, or at least good presenter, and you see yourself there, and then you see somebody who's, junior to you saying, you're not articulating, you're not expressing your voice enough. And I never even thought of that. And from that day forward, I remember that before every presentation. And at first I was like, what a jerk. You're not that good either. That's our natural, instinctive reaction. But that's not the truth. The truth is we can all become better. None of us are perfect. And we just got to be open to it and take one thing at a time. Don't try and do the New Year's resolution. Go from getting up at 8:30 to getting up at 4 in the morning. It doesn't last because we change very slowly, and our mammal brain is always going to win. So we have to work around it and trick it. To update everybody on the courses, the office hours are becoming incredibly engaging. So if you're in the course, make sure you're listening to them, because people are opening up, sharing what they're doing, sharing the tools that they're using, what's working, how to optimize it. It really helps people clarify why the system works. This is built out of toil, because I started it right when cold calling was dying, and I was selling myself. It was just little old me, and no one knew me. And I had to come up with a much more effective system. Started teaching it on premise, had great success, and now we're doing it online. Because I see people having two major problems today. One is getting conversations started and getting a meeting. Once you have the meeting, you've got to close the complex sale. You have to understand how it works. And the great feedback that I've gotten from people is no one teaches this. This is not the personalization, relevance crap that you hear. That's all good. It's better than the spammy emails, but clearly it's not enough. What you have to do is connect with another person. And we talk about this all the time. We talk about relationships. Now, that word and the word value are so overused in sales today because we don't know what it means. We think we have a great relationship with everybody, but it's not our opinion that matters. It's our client's opinion that matters. So we have to build up trust by giving and helping. and connecting with the other person, talking about what they care about. And no one teaches that in school, college, high school, whatever. And if you aren't consciously developing that skill and understanding how it works, I break it down into tiny little pieces and give you the framework for it so you can just plug in the specifics and you can hit the ground running. The other part is closing the complex sale. When the students come and they say, Brian, I closed the biggest deal in the company's history. I got promoted. I blew away my number. And what you were telling me makes sense. Now, if you look at this and you don't believe it, listen to the podcast. I want you to self-qualify. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme for me. This is my passion. This has been pretty much my focus for the last 7 years. I like doing it on site, but the problem on site was the managers brought me in, not the reps. I love working with reps because you are the ones that make the money if you close the deal, if you get the meetings. If you're forced to go through something, you're not bought in. So go to b2brevenue.com, schedule a time to talk. If you're serious, don't just listen to one episode. Make sure you're comfortable that what I'm talking about fits your personality, your style, and you want to understand how a complex sale works and how to close it. Hey, that's it. Also, go to LinkedIn. If you could follow the company page on LinkedIn, you can follow my profile there. And if you see my videos come up, all the funny videos are stored on my activity on LinkedIn, so you can look at there. If you don't know how to do that, go to YouTube, and you can search my name or the channel as Maverick Method, all one word, on YouTube. They're all stored up there if you want some comedy. Got some big things coming for you this year. Let's make this a great year. And now's the time. And I got to ask yourself, and I ask people, why would you not do the course? Are you lazy? Probably. Are you cheap? Probably. But what's more important? Money? The upside is the real money. What you're missing is that this is a lifelong skill. This is not the type of course, I listened to it, now I know. You get a year. You get one-on-ones, 30-minute Zoom calls with me, applying the course to your deals. All of them are recorded and put anonymously back in the course. There's probably 50 hours of office hours in there. So you get to eavesdrop on discussions, hear how other people are applying this and getting great meetings. There's nothing else out there like this. This is what I do all day. And it works. If you don't believe it works, okay, keep doing your personalization and your spam. You know how well that works, right? Let's get going. Let's make this your year. And if you're lazy and cheap, don't schedule a call, okay? I understand. You can go do that, but let me help the people who want to be helped, want to become better. This is a lifetime skill, the ability to have conversations with people about what they care about that's not transactional, because people will only take your call if they have to, or they want to, or they need to. What we want to do is get into that want to so that they bond with us. We become that partner in crime instead of a vendor. That's it. B2brevenue.com. We'll see you next time. Make sure you're checking out the other podcasts. Sales questions, brutally honest answers in the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. We'll see you.